Good afternoon, everybody. Can you all hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, I will start now. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second webinar hosted by the Malaysian Water Association and Malaysia International Water Convention. Today's topic is Financially Sustainable Approach Towards Smart Metering. Thank you again for joining us. Today, we are pleased to have with us Mr. Knut Bond, Managing Director of Kamstrup Asia Pacific Sdn Bhd, and he's joining us from Denmark today. Next, we have Mr. Marcus Chung, Sales and Business Development Manager from Kamstrup Asia Pacific Sdn Bhd, joining us from Kuala Lumpur. So today, there will be two polls running for this webinar, and we would appreciate if you can participate in all polls. So during the webinar, all participants can submit your questions to the speakers during the presentation, and they will answer your questions at the end of the webinar. The question and answer icon is located at the bottom bar of your screen. So if you look at your screen, right at the bottom bar, you see the icon Q&A. So just press that icon and you can submit your question. And if you don't miss any part of this webinar, you can still watch it on YouTube. We will post up the link on our Facebook, so you can go to our Malaysia International Water Convention Facebook page. Now, without further ado, let me introduce to you Mr. Knut Bond, who is the Managing Director of Kamstrup Asia Pacific Sdn Bhd, and he will give us an introduction on Kamstrup. Mr. Knut.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to all of you. And also a very warm welcome from my side to this webinar. Thank you for taking your time to join in this. My name is Knut Bonde, and I will take you through this together with my good colleague, Marcus Chung. And both of us, all of us from Kamstrup, are very proud to be in this webinar together with the Malaysian Water Association. The topic that we are going to talk about is to give you some insights in the technology and financial impact from smart metering in water. We will do that in two main steps. At first, I will give you a very short brief intro to Kamstrup, to those of you who do not know us. And after that, I will hand over to Marcus, who will then take you through the more detailed presentation. Now let me see if I can change here. Marcus, can you hear me? I cannot change the right now. Okay, now it works. So at Kamstrup, our purpose, our overall purpose is to ensure clean water and energy to a maximum number of people. That is, of course, not something that we do on our own. That is something that we do in conjunction, in good cooperation with our prime customers, who are the utilities, and in this sense, the water utilities. So we work very closely with those. Our ambition is to revolutionize the supply of clean water and energy through intelligence. And by intelligence, we mean use of data. All the data from the meters can be used for many issues, not only for the billing, but also to bring down costs, also to maximize investment, and also to give a better information flow back to the primary customers, the users of the water. And that is a basic of what we mean by revolutionizing the supply of clean water and energy in relation to water. We are doing this exercise, so to say, these solutions in a number of core business areas. As you see, water is in the middle here. Water is certainly a very important area for us, but as also electricity and cooling / air condition, also heating, not so relevant in Southeast Asia, but in other parts of the world. So we do those 4 types, and we do our metering solution on all those 4 types of consumption. Below you see some pictures of our electronic meters, who are all of them really a state-of-the-art technology. Here a brief impression of where we are active. Altogether, our solutions are sold and marketed in around 80 countries, out of which we have got our own offices in more than 20 countries, among other in Kuala Lumpur, as mentioned, as said, and also in the Asia Pacific, in China and India. All the green dots represents our distribution partners, who also is spread out in around 60 countries. So this adds up to some 80 countries. The APAC office was founded last year, and is a sign that we want to be much more in place in the Asia Pacific area, and not the least in the Southeast Asian area. So we hope that you will appreciate us arriving in the marketplace in a more solid form, so to say. Our company is based in Denmark, and we are very technology-based, innovation-based. We are around 1,500 colleagues, out of which more than 300 are only focusing to R&D. So we spend some 12 to 13% of our revenue on R&D, which in our term is a very high proportion spent on R&D. But this is for us the best security for the future, to have the right solutions coming into the future. This slide just give a very quick look on our solution, our value chain. If you start in the top, you see the electronic meters, and moving to the right, you see our meter reading systems, where we have different ways of doing meter reading, drive-by and automatic meter reading, and also we can work with IoT solutions. We do the meter data management, and we use all the meter data for analytics. As I briefly mentioned, we call it water intelligence when we speak of water. We can also do the hosting and a number of services and the project management. Of course, the customer can always choose. So this was in fact my very quick and brief introduction to Kamstrup, and I will now pass on the stage, so to say, for you, Marcus, please. And thank you.
Yes, thanks, Knut. So my name is Marcus Chang. I'm a business development manager for Kamstrup here in Asia Pacific. And coming back, thanks, Knut, for the introduction. And coming back to the topic that we are going to cover today is how a smart meter pays for itself. I'm sure everybody here attending is trying to look for an answer specifically on this topic. So without further ado, let me jump right in. First of all, in order for us to have a meter pay for itself, we need to measure its benefits. Now, what I've done is I broke it into two. First, the intangible benefits, benefits that we all hear all the time, that smart meters are remote reading meters. It is, you get more accurate data, you increase your data resolution, meaning you have hourly data now instead of monthly data. You can use the data for hydraulic modeling and a lot more benefits that you have already heard before. But for a meter to pay for itself, we really need to look at the tangible benefits, benefits that you can measure and you can justify. Put pen on paper, come up with a business plan, and show how it pays for itself. So on tangible benefits, there's two things. There's billing revenue increase and reduce of workforce. We have heard some discussions of how remote reading meters can reduce number of meter readers, but at the same time, we know that the cost involved simply doesn't justify. So I really want to bring your focus on billing revenue increase. Now, even when we look specifically on the topic of billing revenue increase, there's still two parts to it. One is the not measurable billing revenue increase, which is elimination of estimate reads and prevention of meter tampering. So question is, if we know both of these can happen, but how many meter tampering is occurring in your network, for example?
Marcus, are you showing your slides now, Marcus?
Yes, I am. Sorry.
Oh, we can't see your slides.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was about to tell you.
Oh, no. I might need to fall back then. Sorry.
Oh, okay. We have it now.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to jump back here a bit, yeah. Measurement of benefits. So the intangible benefit I mentioned earlier, you heard it. This is what I was intending to show you. The list of all those benefits that we have seen before. And then the tangible benefits. Yeah, billing revenue increase, reduce of workforce. So here is where we really want to get your focus on, billing revenue increase. So when we talk about billing revenue increase, we have the non-measurable part, elimination of estimate reads, prevention of meter tampering. And then the measurable part, things that we can actually measure and put on paper, you know. So if we have a stuck meter, for example, replacement of stuck meter, a meter that has zero bill, we look down the history of your billing records, we can kind of tell how much revenue we expect by replacing that meter. So that's relatively easy to calculate, and it is important to do. But what is more challenging is when do we replace badly deteriorated meters? Because when you go up to a meter and it's running, how do you know how badly deteriorated that meter is? It's running. You turn on the tap, it is running. Then, of course, you have resizing of meters if it's the wrong size. But here, I want to bring your attention on replacement of badly deteriorated meters first, because that kind of answers the rest, replacement of stuck meters and resizing. So in order to really explore this topic of replacement of badly deteriorated meters, we really need to look at, answer ourselves how meters deteriorate. We need to find that out. And one of the ways, one of the tips we can give you today, before we go out to the field and get some real data from your network, is to look at some research that was done. So here's a research paper coming from Castellón, Spain. They did a research on aging of single jet meters. It kind of give you the representation of single jet, multi-jet meters as well. And in this research, what they have done is this. This is the summary, what they have done. They took a sample of 201 consumers, and they went on to sample their distribution flow rates, basically the consumption behavior of this customer. How much water do they consume at high flow? How much water they consume at low flow? How often you take showers and how often you wash a plate or a cup, something like that. And then they look at new meters. So this particular utility that they have explored, they took their new meters, they tested it on a test bench, 3,700 units of them, to find out what is the efficiency of those new meters at different flow rates. And they also took a sample of 1,200 old meters. Literally, they took it out from the field. They took it out from consumers, replaced them with the new meter. They took the old meter back and they tested it. So they tested various age of meters and various mileage of meters. And what they have done is they have come up with a weighted error for both the used and the old meters to come up with a degradation model, which we will look at. Is quite interesting. So before we start, back to the flow distribution, Here is the consumer behavior that they found. This is data from their research. I just clean up the data and make it more presentable. I just clean up the graph, and make it more presentable. This makes up 100% of the consumer's water consumption. What it is simply telling you is that, for example, 72.7% of the consumption happens at a flow rate of 250 to 1,000 liters per hour. That is where the bulk of their consumption occurs. And then you can see they have some very low flows and some even higher flows. It could be 2-3 showers happening at the same time, at the very high flows. Now, this is the consumer, all right? It has a big impact on how the meter efficiency works as well, which I will show you afterwards. So we understand how meter degrades, This is a meter degradation with age. You can see that the different colors represents the different age of the meter. So 0 years is brand new meter, and the color goes on. So if you look at why is there 2 graphs here, it's because the researchers also done a sample on 2 different brands. They simply name it brand M1 and brand M2. That's all. It doesn't mean anything else. But before we go further, I really want to get your attention on the first line, the meter at year 0, that blue line up there. This is a brand new meter. So for those who are not experienced in meter curve, maybe I'll do a short explanation for you. Why does it have that negative at the 15 liters per hour, -8, and then it jumps up to positive, let's say 4 or 5% at 30 liters per hour? It's because on this slide, I'm showing you that a new mechanical meter will always look like this, that red line over there. Most mechanical meter has this behavior. It has a very steep jump from a highly negative number all the way to a slightly positive, and it comes back to a 0% error. And what this is Q1. Q1 at 30 liters per hour. This is actual data from the researcher, by the way. And then Q2 is at 120 liters per hour. Any manufacturer of meters are legally obliged to have their meters fall within ±5% error between Q1 and Q2 at that low flow. So the regulation accepts higher error at lower flow, 5%. And then Q3 and Q4. Basically, at the higher flow, Q2 to Q4, the regulation only allows you to have plus minus 2% error. So hence, you have a curve that looks like this. So what does Q3 then plays a role? You know, how does Q3 comes into the picture? The nominal flow Q3 divided by the minimum flow 30 liters per hour Q1 is your R number, or what the correct term would be your dynamic range of that meter, 50. So this is R50 meter. So we have also heard of other things, for example, R800 meter, meters that can measure much lower flows, right? So simply means that Q1, the Q3 will remain the same, but Q1 will now be 1.875, for example. Much lower flow at the low range. So I can measure those little drops of water. But something to consider here is that now that you understand how a meter curve would work, now we come back to this graph. You see how fast that degradation occurs on a meter. All other years except for year 0, immediately that low flow end of that meter drops significantly. So regardless of what ratio meters that you are using, R50, R400, R800, 1000, on a mechanical meter, this is what is going to happen. Yeah, that degradation over there at the low flow, it hits the low flow harder. So if you took out an old meter and you test it at high flows, you would have the perception that the meter is working just fine. What you should have done is you should take an old meter, test it at all the flows, the low flow, the nominal flow, and also the high flow, the max flow. Then you get a clear picture like this, what is happening. On this other slide, it's the same set of meters, M1 and M2 brand meters, same group. But the difference now is we are looking at mileage. So the colors now represents the mileage of the meter, how many meter cube that the meter have seen, okay? It could be sitting there for 10 years, but it can have a low mileage, like maybe only 1,000 meter cube might have passed through that meters over 10 years. Or it can be a year-old meter with 10,000 meter cube passing through, okay? But now we have seen a better correlation that meters degrades more with the mileage. Yeah, there's a much better, if you look at the colors, there's a much better correlation. The higher the mileage, the more it degrades. And again, same thing, especially on the low flow end of the meter. It degrades worse for mechanical meters. Now, if you take the two data of consumer and meter, you put it together, this is what you will see. The consumer above, yeah, the bar chart above, and the line graph below is the meter, the consumer above. From here, you can see, for example, for the case of Castellon, Spain, the consumers there, they have 72% of water consumed at the high flows. So even as the meter degrades, as you see down at the bottom where the meter curve is, even as they degrade, the big chunk of their consumption is not as badly impacted at the higher flows. So does it mean that they don't need to replace? Not really. Because if you combine the consumption chart together with the meter degradation curve, if you combine those two, age to age, mileage to mileage, okay, this is what you get. So as the mileage increase for meter brand M2, for example, at 4,000 meter cube, you're looking at negative 15% error. This simply means that every 100 meter cube that you send to this particular customer, installed with this particular meter, you will only see 85 cubic meters in the bill. 15 cubic meters will be lost. And then brand M1, for example, has a better situation with only negative 10%. It could be a better design meter, more suitable, or it could be that those meters are installed at a location where water quality tends to be better in that area. It's hard to say. So now that we look at how meter degrades, okay, the next question is what happens when a meter is replaced? So I take that example of meter brand M2 from that research, and now I'm putting in my numbers, okay? These are all assumptions from now on, but these are valid assumptions you will see. If I install a new meter, I've decided that 4,000 meter cube is my cutoff point. Okay, we need to really sit down and do some calculations, some financial calculations, why 4,000, but let's assume 4,000 first at this point, okay? What will happen is you are going to renew that curve, and this is how it's gonna look like. That point right there will be transferred here, and you're gonna start that degradation of the mechanical meter all over again. So everything below this curve is your savings. That red color area right there would be your savings. And then at some point, you are looking at another replacement, 4,000 cubic meters later. So if you continue on, the next replacement would show you the next savings, which is pretty much the same thing, and you come back to a new meter replacement. So this is how it would look like and what savings you're going to expect from replacing a degraded meter. First, we need to know which meter has been degraded. It has been degraded to a point where we need to replace, and then we replace. We need to calculate what kind of savings we're expected from it. And then we also need to do some future budgeting as well. How many times you're going to replace this meter over the next 10 years? Because that 4,000 meter cube for this particular customer could happen every 2 years. So that means that this meter can be replaced every 2 years. But we need to financially justify it. And it becomes difficult because the savings is so small. Here we are looking at 3 meter replacement already. And if it was to be a smart meter with communication built in and so on, that would simply drive the meter cost up. Yeah, a smart mechanical meter, it would simply drive the meter cost up and doesn't add much. The savings that you see is the same. Right? The tangible savings that you see is still the same. So before, this is what I want to cover on the normal savings that you will see from replacing a meter, a mechanical meter with another mechanical meter. Before I go further, actually my next point is to cover on how to enhance these savings. All right. However, I need you to be on your seats because I will be looking at a few more numbers and tables and graphs to justify the next point. So let's take a quick poll, okay? We're gonna take a 1 minute time to do a quick poll of 3 questions here. So feel free. Okay. So I shall continue. Now, before I go ahead and do that justification, on how to enhance that savings, you might already have a few questions because that research paper we have brought up is a research paper from Spain. But we have different type of consumers, different behaviors, different type of meters that we apply here in this region. So I have personally thought of that as well, and I've done a little bit of research into it. So for example, water quality. What if we consider the water quality that we experience here? The only thing I could say over there based on my findings is 95% of Spain have drinking water quality standards. So they do supply drinking water from the tap in Spain, although not everybody use it for drinking, but it does meet that quality. And not all parts of our regions meet that same quality. So maybe you can say that the water quality is either same or better for Spain. So we might experience something similar or worse on our side in terms of meter degradation. So the worse the water quality, the quicker the meter will degrade, due to stuck meters and so on. And on the next question here is, what is the impact of household tank? Because we use household tank, and the numbers you see coming back to this graph, 250 to 1,000 liter per hour flow rates. These are pretty high flow rates. Either the consumer does not have a household tank, it's a direct supply, or they have very good pressure, or both, one or the other. But let's make an assumption now that if we use household tank and the water flow rates are lower, is indeed lower, and that we move the chart a little bit to the left, now you can see it is being impacted by meter degradation even more. We are not sitting on that part of the curve where meter doesn't degrade much. We are sitting on now more on the part where meter degrades heavily. Yeah. So that is something that we need to consider as well. And then another question would be the difference in metering technology. Volumetric piston meters is what we typically use here. Although many parts of Indonesia use the multi-jets, and Philippines as well. Malaysia, we use a lot of piston meters. So what's the difference there? Just a quick one. I'm not going to jump into too much graph or table here. This is another research, a very quick one slider I'm going to show you. They study the aging of volumetric piston meters in Kampala, Uganda. So similar process. They took a bunch of meters. They look at consumer behaviors. And what they found is this. Submetering reduces submetering for them because these meters are installed on individual apartments. Reduces the utility revenue water in Kampala by 18% due to individual aging of the meter and low network pressure. Further than that, they also look at and concluded that about 25% of water use occurred at flow rates of 0 to 35 liters per hour. And this is a huge difference with what we saw in Castellon. Castellon, you're looking at 75% at 250 to 1,000. Here, we are looking at a quarter of the consumption is all happening at 0 to 35, a lot of low flow. And the researchers there concluded that it's due to the valve effect of private elevated storage tanks that magnifies the under-metering of water. And then they also concluded that volumetric positive displacement piston type meters are not suitable for Kampala due to the observed high failure frequency. And this is the data that they have obtained. Most of the meter, as you can see here on the bar chart, most of it is due to stuck piston and gears. Yeah, these are piston meters that got stuck due to water quality issues. In general, this is what they are trying to conclude. And now, coming back, how can we further exploit these savings? If replacing one mechanical meter with another is not all the answer that we can justify a smart meter, how then can we do it? Yeah, how can a smart meter be financially viable? Now, let's look at how it can possibly be done. Right now, we are looking at 5% savings for each meter replacement throughout its life. For this particular case, yeah, it is for this particular consumer and this particular meter. Now, what if we put in a meter that is non-deteriorating to achieve two things? The first thing we want to achieve is to have the accuracy of the meter increase closer to 0%. I want to bill almost all the water that I sell. Then I want this meter, second part of a non-deteriorating meter is, I want this meter to be accurate throughout the lifetime of the meter. regardless of how many cubic meters has run through it. I want it to be accurate. And from this meter, I also want savings throughout the lifetime of a typical meter. So I don't do this other 2 meter replacement. I put in 1 meter and I want to see that savings. And in this case, if we can achieve that, it is a 15% savings, yeah, throughout the lifetime of that meter. So in comparison, we are looking at 1 non-deteriorating meter at 15% revenues increase versus 3 mechanical meters at 5% billing revenue increase. And this is all for this customer and this meter. We need to do research, and we can assist you in doing that research to find out for your application, what can that number be? So is there such a technology? Does such a technology even exist to achieve that? The answer is yes. There are static meters that we can use. See, ultrasonic application from DN15 to DN100, this is the bulk of the billing meters, and this is where ultrasonic technology is the most efficient and most economical among static meters. And we typically use electromagnetic meter application for the higher sizes of meters. And if you look at a graph-to-graph comparison, this, as I showed you earlier, the red line mechanical water meter, the black line here is an ultrasonic water meter. That is the difference, because ultrasonic doesn't require kinetic energy from water to push the turbine to spin it. So it doesn't have that up and down curve as a mechanical meter. It also does not suffer the same wear and tear. So you can see at year 0, both are new. At year 2, it will look like this. Yeah. At year 3, it will look probably something like that. Yeah, it's that trend I'm saying. I'm not saying that that curve is the exact curve that we get, but that is the trend. And how do we know? How do we know that ultrasonic meter stays like that over the years? First, let's look at how an ultrasonic technology works, okay? I'm going to show you a quick video on how it works. So you see, an ultrasonic meter measures water using ultrasound. It measures 2 ultrasound signals and determines the time difference between them to measure the flow rate. And we know that this meter stays accurate over the years is because of our own experience. You see, we have millions of installation in Europe. And in Europe, one of the main requirements there, not in all countries, but in quite a few of them, is to have the meters removed from the field, put on a accredited test bench to be tested, and it has to perform whatever R number that you have determined for it when it was new. So if it's an R50 meter, it needs to pass the R50 test. If it's an R800, then it must pass the R800 test. So we have our meters. We have a accredited lab within our factory. We took out in this particular case, we took out 1,308 meters, about 6 to 7 years old. That's around the time where they need to be retested and re-verified. 96% of those meters fall under plus minus 2% error. Meaning to say, after 6 or 7 years, these ultrasonic meters remain as new. Plus minus 2% error is even beyond the accuracy of what the low flow for a mechanical meter is required to do. We do above that with the ultrasonic meter. 3.7% fall under plus minus 4, and only 0.3% fall out of spec after those number of years. And it's not badly out of spec, it is just beyond 4%. So now this is the idea, this is the approach, and it can be done. If you just scribble down a number now, if I have a consumer of 100 ringgit, in Malaysia, 100 ringgit per month consumption, and how many of those consumers do I have? If I can save 15% on consumption and that, plus savings on those future replacement of meters, and if I want an ROI of 2 years, can that be achieved? We can actually put pen on paper and find out how many meters can we really replace. We need to do a bit of research on how consumers behave, test a few old meters to see how degradation works with the various brands of meters that is installed. And we got an answer over there. Because now in these challenging times, if we want to survive only on intangible benefits, it's very hard for funding to come by, I presume. So now that we have tangible benefits, we can then harness all the intangible benefit that comes with it. We can finance it either through internal budgets, we could work with investors, or government funding, whatever it takes. Now we can justify how to pay for that meter, how the program can really pay for itself with science. Now we are looking at other intangible benefits. For example, some of our meters are actually acoustic meters as well, ultrasound meters, ultrasonic meters. So sensors also listens to audible sound, that hissing sound of a leakage in the pipe, And here you can see two cases where our customer has a high audible sound. You see that 150 decibel, and here we get 100 decibel from the meter. This is data coming from the meter. Decibels is like a noise logger. And they repaired the leakage and the noise came down. So these are, I can't tell where the leakage are until you install the meter. And at the same time, you can't justify installing the meter until you know how many leakage you can repair. So it's a never-ending chicken or egg question if you go that direction. But now you can harness those benefits. Here's another case of leakage that is, in this case, it is simulated leakage at the blue dot right there. And basically, they simulated a leakage here, and that's where the peak of the noise is, the acoustic sound is 400 decibels. And all the neighboring houses also have some indication of leakage. So there's a little bit of correlation happening over there. Other than that, of course, smart meters comes with ability to be read remotely. So you can do drive-by, walk-by, you can have high-rise AMI communication, you can have a 4G bridge to reach to the rural areas, you can have a cell tower to read up to 2,000 meters, up to 2 kilometers in distance. All that now become possible. And when we do all this, definitely we would like to have data analytics done. So to further enhance the value of smart meters, we want to analyze the districts, the different DMA, DMZ. We want to look at the data that is coming from acoustic sound from the meter, for example. And we want to record incidents, that is captured by smart meters. For example, if a meter is dry, it knows that the meter was dry. Although tempering error didn't come up, it could indicate that it's dry. We want to find out if the other meters are dry, or if it's just this meter was dry, and we really want to find out what happened at that location. Meter tempering errors, things like that, we can start to analyze on. But to keep things short and sweet, I'm going to end my presentation here. However, I just want to end it by saying from our side that this is our contact information. If you have any questions on how to determine when to replace meters and how to do this justification, this financial justification, the business case, you can always reach out to us as well. But before that, we also have Q&A. So we will try to answer some of this Q&A. Denise, do I hand this back over to you now?
You can see the Q&A. Just click on the Q&A, and then you can answer the question. There's one question.
Okay. There's a question on whether this electromagnetic wave can harm people, meaning it's coming from the meter, yeah? First of all, these are not electromagnetic meters. It is not EM meters. These are the meters that is suitable for residential, small commercial, and small industrial application, which the bulk of the meter where static technology can be applied is ultrasonic. Yeah, it is more of a ultrasonic technology because it is more financially viable to do it that way. Electromagnetic meters at the very small sizes are too costly.
Any other question? There's one more.
Yeah, so there's one more question regards to low water tariff. And that's a very good point. You see, having low water tariff is where we started at the beginning. We look at cost of smart meters and we say that I can't achieve that with such low tariff. And that is true, that's generally true. But what we are saying is out of that, let's say 500,000 connections that you have. Low tariff is one thing, high consumption is another. A customer can be consuming a lot of water. And if you continue to use a meter that is, let's say, example I used earlier from that research, negative 15% efficiency. And this customer pays, let's say 100 ringgit, just 100 ringgit a month. And you can save 15 ringgit a month. You take that over 12 months, and then let's say over 3 years. That's enough money to pay for a smart meter or close to paying for a smart meter. So it really depends on what duration of ROI that we want to achieve first. So we need to sit down, we need to look at that. Second, we need to look at how your meter really deteriorates and how your consumer consumes water. Because from the papers that I showed earlier, it seems that it kind of gives us that feeling that the impact of degradation is higher on us than in Spain, because our consumption is more on the low flow side. So there is justification, but just not everyone. With low tariff, we just can't do it for everyone, but we can nip and pick which one. There is still a possibility for us to do smart metering and yet have it pay for itself. So this we just need to do more work than others to achieve that. That is where we are getting to. Yes, the next question is again the same thing, but it mentions here that
questions now.
Yeah, 8 questions. It mentions here that financial sustainability is not touched on. It is touched on. We are giving you the guidance on how to get there, because note, every consumer is different. What if you have one consumer? I give you an example. You have one consumer that really pays 100 ringgit every month. Okay, we start there. But backtrack a little bit. This consumer consumes water at 0 to 25 liters per hour for whatever reason, okay, for that whole 100 ringgit bill. And you have an old mechanical meter installed on this guy. And that justifies moving on with a different technology. That is a smart meter. You know, that 100 ringgit a month of savings you're talking about, completely not red. Let's say this is a worst case example. So what I'm saying is we need to do a bit of research on it. We can't categorize a whole network of that it is not viable or the whole network is viable. It would be nice if we have like for the industry, you know, if we have higher tariff, then it's easy to justify. We don't have to do too much work. But the difference now is we don't have those tariffs. And we need to scavenge whatever we can to make that justification. So the answer is we need to do more work. So from what I have touched on just now, I didn't give exact number for any single utility to pay for itself, because what we have touched on is the process of getting there. It is possible. Out of the 500,000 connections, maybe 10,000 is viable, right? But who is that 10,000? Maybe it was 15, maybe it's 20,000, I don't know. We need to sit down and do this together. It is very possible when we apply a non-degrading meter to justify that replacement. But the key is we need to use something that is non-degrading. Question on how long does the battery last? For typical ultrasonic meter, if you want to put in such a technology, you better have it last more than 15 years, 15 years. Because you want to really maximize your investment. But then again, we need to sit down. 15 years is one thing. We need to sit down and look at what ROI is acceptable. Maybe for you, it might be just 5 years. You know, I will only look as far as 5 years. So which customer can I install such a technology? And who are those customers? We need to research on it. Who are those customers to get my money back? What would potentially cause the degradation of an ultrasonic meter? You see, ultrasonic meter is very capable in sustaining its efficiency on the field as a technology. But then you might have seen many different ultrasonic meters in your profession. There is a difference in the quality and the technology when it is built. Ultrasonic meter A, B, C, and D is not all the same. So you really need to look into how it is built, the quality that it is built. But as a technology, it is actually very, very able to sustain a high efficiency. For example, if you have bio growth within the meter, let's say, because it is a straight through meter, right? And things will flow right through. So you don't have this clogging issue so much. You can put a very big strainer at the back of the meter, and as long as the big chunky stuff don't come down, it's fine. But even if you have bio growth within that meter, remember, we have 2 ultrasound signals coming in each direction. So even if biofilm would have slowed down the sound, it cannot block the sound. We know that for a fact. It slows both of them down at the same time. The difference in time travel between the 2 signals remains the same. And that's why it remains accurate for so long. Can we understand the ability of thermal energy meters for district cooling level? Yes, we can talk about thermal energy meters. In fact, we do carry out different webinars for that. It is probably not covered with MWA and MIWC because this is purely a water session. But for energy meters, there is another discussion on that as well. By the way, Knud, Adrian, if you would like to jump in any of these questions, please feel free. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm just going to continue and run through it. How many?
Okay, Marcus, just continue and run through. I'm writing a few additional remarks to some of the answers in the text box.
Okay, sure.
I think it's better you just continue for the time being.
Okay, thank you. How many countries in ASEAN have these smart meters? I guess have these smart meters been installed? Right now, we have done some tests in Brunei, for example. But we also have projects elsewhere which we could discuss individually. But we have several countries where we are running tests on these meters already. We, as a brand, as a Kamstrup, as a brand, we are fairly new in APAC because we have put a lot of focus in Europe prior. We are very successful. In fact, we are the first to develop a meter that can listen to leakage that costs about the same as any smart meters. So it is a pretty amazing development, but that's what we do. We focus a lot of time in Europe, and now we are here in APAC. Does your meter support IoT SCADA? IoT is a topic that we are already looking into. But as you know, IoT itself is not mature yet. So we can't say that we can put a meter at the ends of our country or our region, and still expect to have connectivity. So we don't have that yet. And in fact, at the moment, we don't really encourage that yet. We are developing it. We will have it, but not yet. Where? I'm not clear about this question. Where for digital water meters use up to 4,000 cubic meters, such as manual? I guess, and what consumers? If you have a house converted to a restaurant, if you have a restaurant lit outright, laundry shop, things like that, and even a very big house that has a lot of occupants. I don't know, but we can find that. We need to just look down the billing data, and we can find that. Not 4,000 meter cube in a year, by the way. It could be 4,000 cubic meters in 2 years, 3 years. It depends on that consumer. There is some calculation that we need to do together. Look at the billing system, look at what type of meters that you're using, the consumer behavior, and then we can determine. What should water department do to check the age and efficiency of the meter? Good question. I've seen many approach to it. I've even seen many tests in our region where they only test it at single flow, one flow. So the best way to check a meter efficiency is first test the meter at all flow. So at Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, at least. If it would be nice if you can find some of those samples and test it at 10 flow, between Q1 and Q2, between Q2 and Q3, and so on. So you really know how the meter behaves. But how efficient is that meter to read consumers' water consumption also depend on how the consumer consume water, right? If the consumer consume water all on the low flow, then we should just test it all on the low flow. No point testing on the high flow because nobody is using water there. Example only. So this is how we should look at it. We should test it on the flow range where the consumer is using water. And if we don't know, we should test the entire range of that meter. Sediment deposit, will it affect accuracy of ultrasonic meter? And as I answered earlier, the answer is not much effect. Let's assume that sediment deposits on one side of the meter more than the other side. And as I mentioned earlier, the ultrasound wave comes from both directions. So it slows down, it will slow it down. It will not block the ultrasonic sound. Ultrasonic sound has very deep penetration. In fact, we use it for medical purpose to look inside our bodies. So it has very deep penetration, but it will slow the sound down if it goes through some solids, some kind of solid, biofilm deposits, whatever. But because we have two sound, not one, as long as it slows both sound down the same amount, both of the sound wave goes through the same sediment, then we are fine because the total time difference between the two is still the same. We are still measuring flow accurately with sediment. Is your smart meter measuring the volume of water used for historical flow rate data so that leakage can be detected from consumer households? I guess to summarize that question is whether historical data is captured, number one, and whether we can detect leakage from the consumer's end. The answer is yes to both. Hourly data is captured within that meter, and many smart meters, and not just our meter or whichever brand. I'm talking about smart meter in general. Data is captured within that meter. So you can have your hourly data and so on. Plus, to capture and detect leakage within a consumer household is quite simple. It's very easy. The strategy is there a point of zero consumption for that consumer in the last, let's say, 7 days? Okay, the meter will just continue to look at 7 days data and say, is there any zero consumption, or is there always some water flowing, always with no zero consumption for the household? Then it knows, it will sound an alarm. You say, hey, I have never seen a zero consumption for this house for the past 7 days. So it sounds an alarm and it says leakage. That is easy, actually. The other part that some, like, for example, what Kamstrup has done is the meter now also listens to leakage back to the main pipe. So where you install the meter, if there's a leakage down to, let's say, the tapping point of the main pipe and beyond, we can hear that acoustic sound, the typical hissing sound of a leaking pipe. So both ways can be done. For factory meter, like a meter that is installed in a factory, you want to get a 1-year return of investment. What is the minimum consumption per day of water that is suitable to use smart meter? That's a very good question. In fact, for meters that is installed for industrial and commercial use, it is one of the easiest to justify. What is the exact minimum consumption? We need to sit down and work it out. Actually, we do have some expertise on our side as well. If you reach out to us, we are more than happy to help you look at those information and determine what kind of ROI you should expect from replacing your meters for which customer, for example. So maybe looking at the type of meter that you have installed today, number one. Looking at how the consumer consumes water, it might be difficult to get, but at least we can also do a test on some of those older meters and see how they deteriorate. Yeah, and make an estimate how the consumer would consume water typically and what flow rates. If we can get a feel, just a feel of that, then we can at least put pen and paper and come up with an ROI for replacement. So what is the minimum? It depends on how that degradation works for that meter and that consumer as well. So we are more than happy to help you find out that information if you have such a issue that you want to tackle. So please reach out to us on that. What happens if plastic bags pass through your smart meter? Plastic bag in a water pipe is, hopefully it does not happen too often. But again, anything can happen in this world, we know that. However, our smart meters do come with at least a strainer. The difference is the strainers that you see in ultrasonic meters are much bigger. So it does capture plastic bags at least, and anything that is smaller than that strainer will simply flow right through because there's no moving parts, there's most stuff will just flow right through. But you should at least have a strainer on that meter, even for ultrasonic meters, at least on the smaller sizes between DN15 up to DN40, you should at least put a strainer. And anything bigger than that, whatever that fits in that pipe is going to flow through. Okay. Most of our water meters are over 5 years of age, but NRW is only 3%. Do you recommend replacing our water meters? Hey, the thing is, if we look at the 3% overall NRW, that is perfect. In fact, that is very well managed NRW levels. But then again, you are looking at it as a whole, as a whole network in average. If we now look at where that 3% is there an opportunity to find that 0.5% just by changing the technology of metering for those consumers? Is there an opportunity to do that? It simply means that your work to get from 3% to 2% is tougher. You have a harder time to try and find that 0.5% or 1%. But it doesn't mean that you do replace or you don't replace. I wouldn't recommend that kind of decision making. Just by looking at 3%, I don't replace, or looking at 3%, I do replace. But just simply understand that your effort to get that 0.5% or 1% is simply tougher. We need to look at more data to really find that 0.5% or 1% where we can fix. So if you can spend that effort, if you are continuously vigilant in keeping the NRW low at 3% and try to bring it lower, I think that's the best way moving forward. It's not generalized whether I make a decision or not based on 3%. How does the meter listen to leak noises? Does it work with installed meter to correlate the noise location? At this moment, we don't correlate the noise yet. And the way it works is simple. Ultrasonic sound meter are, as the name implies, ultrasound. Yeah, it has transducers to shoot out ultrasonic sound wave and listens to ultrasonic sound wave. What we have done is simply make a meter with the same transducer. We don't add anything too much to it to make the same transducer also listen to audible sound. It's a very smart thing to do, because now at almost the same cost, not too much different. Now you have a meter that is measuring very accurately, doesn't deteriorate, and listens to leakage all at the same time. And even if as I speak right now, even if anybody comes up to us here in APAC to buy a leak detection meter, this ultrasonic meter that listens to leakage, our production is all backed up. The whole Europe now is asking for this meter, and our production is simply backed up for months, and it works, So if you're interested, please reach out to us, and we will be happy to talk more about that. By system, what are the criteria based to determine? The next question is very general. It talks about how ultrasonic meter can be applicable in our region and what criteria. Well, the earlier presentation I gave really covers a lot of those aspects. Generally, we need something that is more capable of sustaining high turbidity water that doesn't degrade, something that lasts long on the field, something that doesn't look expensive, that someone wants to steal it with something sticking out from it. We don't want anything like that in our region. We need a battery life that lasts long, because we can't afford to continue to replace a smart meter too often. So these are the criteria that we need, all the human aspect to the meter. But other than that, we have to really dive deeper to look at what your scenario is. In the past, Kelantan did install some form of smart meters which failed. What is the difference with your smart meters now? Very good question. I'm not sure what was installed there. I have no idea, and I'm not going to touch in history. I did hear it was some ultrasonic meters, but then again, how many years back was that? Is the question. We now have meters installed in very challenging situations. A little bit of air bubbles here and there, a little bit of turbidity here and there did not at all impact the efficiency of our meters. It can be installed with a direct elbow coming in and out. It doesn't require a straight line. It doesn't require a flow straightener or anything like that. So I think time have changed quite a bit on technology. We cannot look back 10 years ago and say 10 years later we don't look at it again, ever again. Kind of like how we look at smartphones and cars and things like that. The technology has changed quite a bit 10 years ago and now. I'm not sure how many years back was that. I'm pretty sure it's quite some number of years. But to make a judgment on that, I think somebody really needs to put it on the field and test it, or go have a look at some of the applications that has been installed to really get a feel of how good it will work.
Maybe I can add a few comments here,
Yes.
Marcus.
Yes.
In general, from Kamstrup side, these days our production level is about 1 million water meters, ultrasonic water meters per year. And basically we go by every customer. If a customer would come back to us and say something is failing, then we would look into this and find out what is wrong. Because we are convinced that the meter can work in almost all conditions. And also to the other question, if ultrasonic meters are applicable, yes, they are basically applicable everywhere. And we do in fact see very few customers coming back to us and telling us that, hey, you failed. And if something like that happens, then we would certainly attend it and find out what is the reason why. And now that I have the word, so to say, one more comment on the financial issues. There has been many good questions about that. Mm-hmm. We would really call upon our potential customers when comparing technology. Do look at cost of ownership in the lifetime of the metering solution, not just in the installation moment. Look at the total cost over 15 years. Look at what service cost do you have? How often do you have to exchange the meter? How many calls do you have to go out and fix something? And also look at the revenue, because a better meter will give you more revenue because all the consumption is measured. A poorer meter would only measure part of the delivered water, and then you also only get paid for parts of the delivered water. So please, dear ladies and gentlemen, when you compare technologies, this goes in general, look at the cost of ownership over the, say, 15 years, and not just in the initial investment moment, because the full picture you only get when you look at the full period holistically. Just a comment on the return on investment issues. That is certainly important.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Knut. And SPAN approval, and this is the metrology approval for Malaysia. We'll have it in due time. It's already in the process, and we know we'll have it in due time. Can it be customized? Question. Depends on what customization means. If it means having name printed beneath the glass, yes, you can have utility names and all that. That kind of customization. They are plug-ons for protection, casing, things like that. Customization like that, yes. Disconnection for non-paying consumers. Is it possible to be done remotely? A good question, and I have seen this question quite a few times myself. There are solutions, and yes, Kamstrup also have such solution where the same equipment that you use to read your smart meter is the equipment that you use to shut off the valve. There is a valve that you install behind the meter. So as you drive by, if the billing department determines that this meter should be shut off, the moment the meter reader drives by, it shuts the valve off. It can be done, but bear in mind that this kind of application, we also, it adds to the cost, so we need to look at the ROI as well, if that is a concern. However, if it's an application where ROI is not a concern, it's a special application, then definitely yes, there is options for that.
I would like to mention an example here. We are for the moment delivering around 200,000 meters. We are for the moment delivering around 200,000 meters to the city of Antwerp in Belgium. And all of those 200,000 meters are attached to a valve in order to be able to do this exercise here, to disconnect non-paying customers. So that's a purpose of one of the purposes of this project. So it, as Marcus explained, it can be done.
Yeah. Right. And coming to this next question of, let's say the question says, supplied area is subjected to a lot of pipe bursts, frequent water supply interruption. What will happen to the accuracy of that smart meter? In our experience so far, like pipe bursts, what happened? What do you mean by pipe burst, right? Maybe the impact from a pipe burst is that when you do repairs or you shut down the water and the water comes back on, it creates a lot of turbidity in the water. So question should be like, can the meter handle those kind of turbidity? The answer is pretty much yes, because we have seen high turbidity applications of our water meter in places where turbidity is an issue. On top of that, something to bear in mind, our meters actually, in our case, not applying to all ultrasonic meter in general. This is from our experience, what we are sharing. When you have a ultrasonic meter that is run on a heating situation. So in Denmark, we have a lot of our ultrasonic meters is used for measuring heat, basically measuring energy, how hot water is applied to heat up the house, what is the temperature and volume of the water going in, and what's the temperature coming out, something like that. This application has very high turbidity in the pipelines. Hot water pipelines has very high turbidity. And there's no issues in reading that so far. I did see in some previous application of ultrasonic meters where turbidity is an issue. I have seen that some meters actually have that problem, big problem in that situation as well. We are not to say it's zero impact, but from what we have seen, the only way to justify it, let's put one at those locations and we see, that's the best way to answer that question. Because right now, all we can tell you is from our experience, it should not impact it too much. But again, ultrasonic meters do not measure air. So if you have a disconnection of supply, supply interruption, and then a lot of air is built up in the pipe, and then you push air out, those air are not going to be measured until it stabilizes. A little bit of bubble is fine, but if it's all air, the meter is simply not going to read anything. So in fact, if you measure a scenario, just that scenario, mechanical meters might measure more because it measured the air, which we don't. Okay, there's a point that was raised. Kelantan was using EMF meters. Thanks for the input. It wasn't ultrasonic. Okay. Ultrasonic might be subjected to lightning surge spikes. You foresee this an issue in Malaysia, like damage from lightning? I think that is something that can be considered. It is from, I had this question came to me before as well, to be frank. We did raise it with the factory, but we have not yet seen, it might have occurred on the field, and the customer simply just replaced that one meter, right? We are not seeing tons of meters coming back from the field and, lightning strike, lightning strike, lightning strike. We have not seen that yet, at least on our side. So there may be an assumption we would make right now. This is without real data, we are all making assumption. Maybe an assumption we can safely make right now is that lightning strike on meters is not something that is extremely common. I wouldn't say it's not possible, but I don't see it as being extremely frequent enough. So we don't see tons of meter coming back, all getting lightning strike and lightning strike. You know, we don't see that.
If I may add a comment here,
Yes.
I've been with Kamstrup for 29 years, and when I look over the years,
Okay.
yes, from time to time we see meters who have been hit by lightning here and there.
Okay.
But it's not a big problem, since the meters are typically in basements and other protected places. So I never heard it to be a big problem, but that again, it does not exclude that it may happen from time to time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does your meter measure in half full? Okay, the answer is no. Okay, to be clear and straightforward, does your meter measure half full? Answer is no. But also take note of one thing. When a pipe is half full, it simply means that there's no pressure. There should be no flow, or there should be trickling amount of flow due to gravity. This is what we all learn in Manning's equation, Hazen-Williams equation, right? You don't apply a half full pipe equation on a full pipe. When a pipe is half full, there's no pressure, and it doesn't flow. So either air is flowing through or sitting half full, or it's just flowing by gravity one direction or another. So straight up answer, no. Half full meters can't be read by ultrasonic meters. But then again, more serious consideration is it won't stay half full for long if there is pressure. Specific customization, such as temperature, turbidity measurements, added onto ultrasonic. Okay, temperature, yes. Good point. Now I understand your question earlier. Customization on whether the meter can read other things, right? So temperature, we do measure. We do measure noise, for example, on some range of our meter. We do turbidity, we do not measure on our ultrasonic meters. And for now, at least for the near future, I don't think we have plans to add turbidity as one of those measurements onto our meters. At least for the short term, we don't have that plan yet.
But we are looking very, very much into turbidity in our R&D. What does this mean for us? Is it relevant for us? So the topic is certainly on our dashboard, so to say. So our R&D colleagues are researching in this.
Yeah.
But as Marcus said, nothing specific in the meters for the moment.
Okay. Yeah, and I understand where that question comes from as well, because for some utilities now they are starting to switch over to more focus on water quality rather than NRW. Then turbidity comes into play. If I repair a pipe, who are the people who are getting all this turbidity? You know, maybe there's some way I can control my valves to try and let things settle down before the water is let through. We understand where that question is coming from, but not yet, not at this point. We can't do turbidity yet. Is the meter having any value from vandalism or thief from drug addicts, as happened to mechanical meters? That is a good point. In fact, maybe if I have something on my computer that I can share with you. No, I don't have it here. But it really depends on the design of that meter. And very good question, actually. If you have a water meter that looks like a spaceship, it's going to get stolen, you know. And that is the end. So no matter how we dive deep into technology and what it can do, but the human factor, if it's not taken care of, then the whole idea falls apart. It's a good point. And this is the area where we have put a lot of emphasis on. We emphasize on making meters, at least on our part, maybe there are others as well, but we emphasize on making meters that looks like a normal meter. When you walk up to a meter, you look at it, it doesn't look anything special. It doesn't look like it has a battery inside. It doesn't look like you have radio communication devices inside, nothing sticking out, no antenna, no nothing. And this is proven because we have an installation here in APAC. We have a few, and in very security-wise challenging location, security-wise, if you know what I mean. And those meters are still there. It has been out there for a long time, and I can say it's still there. You know, so if you were to reach out to me in person, we can contact with our users, and we gladly have you some pictures or photo or some kind of information. You can have a look. You know, it really boils down to the human factor as well. So good question. The answer is, so far we have passed that test.
And maybe this has also got to do with that we do not use metal in the meter, in the shape of stealing. It's no, you cannot make money out of stealing a meter and then selling it as metal, because it's a composite material, a very strong composed composite material. But you cannot turn it into cash by going to someone and selling it as material as you can with a metal meter.
Yeah.
So in fact, in the way of stealing meters to sell them, to make a little money, we don't hear very much of that, because the thief will not know how to turn our meter into money.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Knut. Thank you, Marcus. I think we have come to the end of this webinar.
Okay.
Will our admin pull up the second poll, the second set of poll questions? Can we invite participants to answer these 3 very short questions, and we will show you the results.
While answering, I would like to put a remark and say thank you very much to all of you out there. Thank you for listening in, and thank you for all the good questions. We hope to meet you again at some occasion here or there. And feel free to reach out for us, as Marcus mentioned. We'd be very happy to discuss further with you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you everyone for being with us today. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Mr. Knut. And now, a big thank you to the Malaysian Water Association for hosting today's webinar. Unfortunately, Dato' Kadir, President of Malaysian Water Association, is not able to join us today. So on behalf of Dato' Kadir and the Malaysian Water Association, we would like to thank you. We have scheduled the next webinar for 19th of May, which is next Tuesday at 3 o'clock same time. So do join us at the next presentation by Xylem Incorporated. For all the details, you can follow us on our Facebook, Malaysia International Water Convention Facebook page for updates, and also the link to our YouTube channel so you can watch this video again. So if you have any other questions or feedback, participants, you can still put it onto the webinar chat on the right panel. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Mr. Knut. Thank you to all our participants. So let's stay home, stay safe, and stay motivated. So until next week, next Tuesday, we see everybody again. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And
thank
bye.
you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you too. Thank you.